Elder Veltara pressed her blue, scaled hand against the emergency communicator. Her world was dying around her. The beautiful crystal cities of Vani Prime cracked and fell as enemy ships rained fire from the sky. She could hear the screams of her people echoing through the underground bunker. The Korthak Empire had come without warning. Their massive black ships appeared in the system 3 days ago. They did not ask for surrender. They did not demand resources. They simply began killing everything that lived. Veltara was the last member of the High Council alive. The others died trying to evacuate civilians or defending the outer colonies. Now she sat alone in the deepest bunker on her homeworld, watching her species face extinction. "Please work," she whispered to the ancient machine. The quantum communicator was old technology, built by her ancestors thousands of years ago. It could send messages across the entire galaxy in seconds, but it was hard to use and often broke down. Above her, another explosion shook the bunker. Dust fell from the ceiling. The Korthak ships were getting closer to her hiding place. She did not have much time. Veltara typed the message with shaking fingers. She aimed it at the Ashanti Federation, the kindest species in the galaxy. They lived far away, but they sometimes helped others in trouble. It was her people's only hope. "This is Elder Veltara of the Vallani civilization," she spoke. "Into the machine. Our people are being destroyed by the Korthak Empire. They are killing everyone. Children, elders, everyone. We have no weapons that can stop them. Please, if anyone receives this message, help us. We are in the Vallani system, Sector 7G. We have maybe hours before we are all dead." She hit the send button. The machine hummed and glowed with strange light. Then it made a sound she had never heard before, a deep crack like breaking glass. Sparks flew from the controls. "No, no, no!" Veltara cried. She hit the machine, trying to make it work again, but the display screen showed red error symbols. Something had gone wrong. What Veltara did not know was that her message had been sent to the wrong place. A small mistake in the quantum frequency had changed everything. Instead of reaching the peaceful Ashanti Federation, her desperate call for help was flying across space toward a small blue planet in a distant system. On Earth, Communications Officer Lee Hanna was having a quiet night shift at the Deep Space Monitoring Station. The large building sat on a mountain in South Korea, filled with computers and radio equipment that listened to signals from space. Most nights, Hanna heard nothing but static and the normal radio waves from distant stars. She was drinking coffee and reading a book when her computer made a sound she had never heard before. A new signal appeared on her screen, something that was clearly not natural. The patterns were too complex, too organized. This was a message from intelligent beings. Hanna's hands shook as she began recording the signal. She had trained for this moment her whole career. But now that it was happening, she felt scared and excited at the same time. The computer worked to translate the alien language. Slowly, words appeared on her screen in Korean, then English. As Hanna read the message, her face went pale. "Captain Park!" she called across the room. "Captain Park, you need to see this right now!" Captain Park Taemin rushed over to her station. He was a serious man who had served in the Korean Navy before joining the space monitoring program. He expected to see reports of strange radio signals or maybe space junk. He did not expect to read about genocide. "Are you sure this is real?" he asked after reading the message twice. "The signal patterns are unlike anything in our database," Hanna replied. "And the quantum frequency suggests it came from very far away. This is not a hoax, sir." Park picked up his phone and called Fleet Admiral Kim Ji-won at Earth Defense Force headquarters. It was 3 in the morning, but this could not wait. "Admiral, we have received what appears to be a distress call from an alien civilization," Park said when Ji-won answered. "They claim they are being exterminated by another alien species." There was silence on the phone for a long moment. Then Admiral Ji-won's voice came back, fully awake and alert. "Send me everything immediately. I am calling an emergency meeting of the Defense Council." Within an hour, the top military leaders of Earth were gathered in a secure conference room. Admiral Ji-won, a woman who had led Earth's space forces for 10 years, stood before a large screen showing the translated alien message. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "we have just learned that we are not alone in the universe. Unfortunately, we have also learned that the universe contains species that commit genocide." The room was silent as everyone absorbed this news. General Choi Min-ho, head of the Space Marines, was the first to speak. What are our options, Admiral? We can ignore this message and pretend we never received it, Ji-won replied. Or we can respond. Respond how? Asked Commander Yoon Sora from the Tactical Division. We do not know anything about these aliens. We do not know where they are or how many enemies they face. Admiral Ji-won touched her tablet, and the screen changed to show star maps and distance calculations. The signal came from approximately 847 light-years away, she said. Our fastest ships with quantum drives could reach that location in about 6 days. We have been building our deep space fleet for possible threats to Earth. Now we know those. Threats exist. But these are not threats to Earth, pointed out Dr. Shin Yujin from the Science Division. These aliens are asking for help, not threatening us. Exactly, said Admiral Ji-won, which means this is not about defending Earth. This is about what kind of species we want to be. The debate continued for 2 hours. Some argued that Earth should not get involved in alien conflicts. Others said that genocide was wrong no matter who committed it. But in the end, the decision was simple. Humans had spent their entire history fighting against those who hurt the innocent. They had fought dictators, stopped genocides, and protected the weak. The fact that this genocide was happening in space did not change anything. We launch tomorrow, Admiral Ji-won announced. This is Operation Guardian Angel. We are going to save these people. By dawn, orders went out to every Earth Defense Force base. The Deep Space Fleet began preparing for humanity's first interstellar military mission. Ships were loaded with weapons, medical supplies, and soldiers. Engineers worked frantically to upgrade quantum drives for maximum speed. As the sun rose over Earth, nobody knew they were about to change the course of galactic history. The peaceful aliens of the galaxy were about to meet a species that had evolved on a dangerous world, a species that could not ignore suffering, a species that would fight against impossible odds to protect people they had never met. The Vani had sent their desperate message to the wrong species. But sometimes, the wrong choice turns out to be exactly right. Elder Veltara died 3 hours after sending her message, never knowing that help was coming. But her final act had set in motion events that would reshape the galaxy. Somewhere in space, human ships were beginning the longest journey in their history, carrying with them the most dangerous force in the universe, people who refused to let evil win. The galaxy was about to learn what happens when you call for help and humans answer the phone. Fleet Admiral Kim Ji-won stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, the largest warship humanity had ever built. Through the massive windows, she could see dozens of other ships preparing for departure. This was Earth's deep space fleet, ships designed to protect humanity from unknown threats among the stars. Now those threats had names and faces. Admiral, all department heads are ready for the briefing, announced Lieutenant Commander Oh Dae-hyun from the communications station. Ji-won nodded and walked to the main conference room. Around the large table sat the officers who would lead humanity's first interstellar war. General Choi Min-ho commanded the Space Marines, 30,000 soldiers trained for combat in zero-gravity and hostile environments. Commander Yoon Sora led the Tactical Division, the minds behind Earth's military strategy. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Kim Soyeon would handle casualties and first contact protocols with alien biology. Before we discuss our mission, Admiral Ji-won began, I want everyone to understand what we are facing. The room's main screen activated, showing the translated data from the alien distress call. But now they had more information. Earth's deep space telescopes had been pointed at the Vani system, and what they saw was terrible. These are real-time images from the target system, Ji-won explained. The screen showed explosions on planetary surfaces and burning ships in space. The genocide is still happening. We estimate that millions of aliens have died in the past week. Colonel Bae Sun-ho, leader of the elite 1st Marine Division, leaned forward. What do we know about the enemy? Very little, admitted Commander Yoon Sora. We have identified their ships through telescope observation. They appear to use energy weapons and have numerical superiority. Their tactics seem to focus on overwhelming firepower rather than strategy. And the victims? Asked Dr. Kim Soyeon. What can you tell me about the species we are trying to save? Also very little, Sora replied, but their technology appears advanced. The fact that they could send a quantum message across the galaxy suggests they are at least equal to us in some areas. General Choi Minho studied the tactical displays. Admiral, our fleet is powerful, but we are designed for defending Earth, not attacking an unknown enemy in their territory. Are we sure we can win this fight? Admiral Jiwon looked around the table at her officers. These were good people. Some of the best humanity had to offer. They were asking the right questions and thinking about the risks, but they did not understand the most important thing about this mission. Let me tell you why we are going to win, she said, and why these enemies have never faced anything like us before. The screen changed to show Earth from space. The blue marble that was humanity's home. Our planet is what scientists call a death world, Jiwon explained. Most planets that develop intelligent life are gentle places. Stable climates, abundant resources, few natural disasters. The species that evolve on such worlds become peaceful and cooperative because violence is unnecessary for survival. She touched her tablet and the screen showed images of Earth's history. Volcanoes, ice ages, asteroid impacts, and predators. Earth is not gentle. Our planet has tried to kill us for millions of years. We survived ice ages that lasted hundreds of thousands of years. We lived through supervolcano eruptions and asteroid impacts. We evolved alongside predators that could tear us apart with their bare claws. The images changed to show human history, wars, exploration, survival in harsh environments. This made us different, Jiwon continued. We became persistence hunters who could chase prey for days without stopping. We developed pack tactics to bring down enemies much larger than ourselves. Most importantly, we learned to work together under pressure and never give up, no matter how hopeless things looked. Colonel Bae Sunho smiled grimly. You are saying, we are the monsters they never expected to meet. Exactly, Jiwon replied. These Korthak aliens have probably conquered dozens of peaceful species who surrendered when faced with superior numbers. They use overwhelming force because it has always worked before. But they have never fought a species that evolved to fight impossible odds. Commander Yoon Sora pulled up tactical assessments on her tablet. Our ships are designed differently than anything they will have seen. Most alien technology focuses on efficiency and logic. Our ships are built to keep fighting even when they are badly damaged. And our soldiers, added General Choi Minho, are trained for combat in environments that would kill most life forms. Zero gravity, toxic atmospheres, extreme temperatures. These are normal training conditions for our Marines. Dr. Kim So-yeon had been quiet during the tactical discussion, but now she spoke up. There is something else we should consider. Most species that develop advanced civilization probably eliminated violence from their nature long ago. They may not understand psychological warfare or fear or determination in the face of death. You mean they do not know how to fight someone who refuses to quit, said Lieutenant Commander Oh Dae-hyun. Exactly. In human history, many wars were won not by the side with better weapons, but by the side that kept fighting when everyone else would have given up. Admiral Jiwon stood and walked to the window. Outside, the last ships were finishing their preparations. In a few hours, this fleet would jump to quantum speed and begin the journey to the Vallani system. There is one more thing, she said. These Korthak aliens choose to commit genocide. They do not kill for resources or territory. They kill because they can. This makes them not just our enemy, but everything humanity stands against. She turned back to her officers. Humans have always fought against bullies and those who hurt the innocent. We stopped dictators on our own world. We ended slavery. We protected the weak even when it cost us dearly. The fact that this genocide is happening in space does not change our nature. The room was silent as everyone absorbed this. They were not just going to fight aliens. They were going to be the galaxy's immune system, fighting against a disease that threatened all intelligent life. Our mission parameters are simple, Admiral Jiwon announced. Save as many Vallani civilians as possible. Destroy the Korthak military forces in that system. Send a message that genocide will not be tolerated. What about first contact protocols? Asked Dr. Kim So-yeon. We have no idea how to communicate with these aliens. We will figure that out after we stop them from being murdered, Jiwon replied. Sometimes you have to shoot first and ask questions later. Colonel Bae Sunho looked at the tactical displays showing their destination. 6 days to get there. That is a long time for people to die while we travel. "Then we had better make sure our arrival is worth the wait," said Admiral Jiwan. Orders went out across the fleet. 12 dreadnoughts, 48 destroyers, and 30 troop carriers would make the journey. Nearly 50,000 humans were about to travel farther from Earth than anyone had ever gone before. In the ship's armory, Marines checked their weapons and equipment. In the medical bays, doctors prepared for casualties from unknown alien weapons. In the engine rooms, engineers pushed the quantum drives to maximum efficiency. As the fleet prepared to jump to quantum speed, Admiral Jiwan made one final announcement to all ships. "Today we begin humanity's first mission beyond our solar system. We go not as conquerors, but as protectors. We carry with us the hopes of Earth and the responsibility to show the galaxy who we really are." When alien historians write about this day, let them say that humans came not for glory or profit, but because someone needed help and we could not look away. The quantum drives activated, and the human fleet disappeared from Earth's solar system. Behind them, they left a world that would never be the same. Ahead of them waited a galaxy that had no idea what was coming. The Deathworlders were going to war. The human fleet dropped out of quantum speed at the edge of the Velani system. What they saw made every officer on every bridge stop breathing for a moment. "Dear God," whispered Admiral Kim Jiwon as the main screen showed the destruction. 3. Planets burned in the distance. Orbital stations hung broken and twisted in space. But worst of all were the evacuation ships. Tiny vessels packed with fleeing civilians being systematically hunted down and destroyed by massive black warships. "Admiral," reported Commander Yoon Sora from the tactical station, "I count 47 Korthak vessels in the system. They are shooting escape pods." On the screen, they watched a Korthak destroyer fire its main cannon at a small ship that was clearly marked with medical symbols. The alien vessel exploded in a ball of fire, taking hundreds of innocent lives with it. Captain Park Taemin commanded the destroyer UES Seoul from his position near the fleet's edge. He watched civilian ships dying on his screen and felt something snap inside his chest. "This is Captain Park to all ships," he broadcast on an open channel. "I do not care about first contact protocols. I do not care about diplomatic procedures. Those are children dying out there." Admiral Jiwan should have ordered him to stand down. She should have reminded him that they needed to study the enemy first, establish communications, understand the tactical situation. Instead, she found herself agreeing completely. "All ships, this is Admiral Jiwan," she announced to the fleet. "Operation Guardian Angel is now active. Primary mission, save every civilian we can. Secondary mission, destroy every Korthak ship in this system. First contact protocols are suspended until the shooting stops." The human fleet spread out and accelerated toward the battle zone. They had no idea how alien weapons worked or what Korthak ship capabilities were. They did not know alien communication frequencies or battle tactics. They only knew that innocent people were dying and someone had to stop it. War Chief Brutanis commanded the Korthak forces from his flagship, the Death's Shadow. He was in the middle of a routine extermination operation when his tactical officer reported something impossible. "War Chief, we have unknown ships approaching at high speed. They do not match any known species design." Brutanis looked at the tactical display with confusion. 49 ships were approaching his fleet in what appeared to be a completely random formation. Some were large, some small, and they were not following any recognizable attack pattern. "Are they reinforcements for the Vallani?" he asked. "Unknown, War Chief. They are not responding to our identification signals." "Then they are enemies. All ships, destroy the newcomers, then continue with the extermination." The Korthak fleet turned to face the approaching humans. Their ships moved in perfect formation, a wall of black metal bristling with energy weapons. It was an intimidating sight that had made dozens of species surrender before the first shot was fired. The humans did not surrender. They did not even. "Slow down." Captain Lee Min-jae commanded the destroyer UES Busan. As he watched the enemy formation on his screen, he made a decision that would have been considered insane by any military academy in the galaxy. "All power to engines," he ordered his crew. "We are going to ram the biggest ship we can find." His tactical officer looked at him in shock. "Sir, ramming attacks have not been used in human warfare for hundreds of years." "Then they will not expect it," Min-jae replied. "Besides, look at those ships. They are built for long-range combat. I bet they have weak armor because they expect enemies to keep their distance. The UES Busan accelerated directly toward the Korthak flagship. Behind it, the rest of the human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Human weapons were different from anything the Korthak had seen before. Instead of clean energy beams, the humans used kinetic rounds, pieces of metal fired at incredible speeds. Instead of targeting enemy weapons, they aimed for engines and life support systems. Instead of fighting in formation, each human ship seemed to be following its own plan. Squadron leader Park Hee-sung led a wing of human fighters against a group of Korthak escorts. Her tactical display showed enemy ships moving in predictable patterns, following what appeared to be a standard defensive protocol. "Wolfpack, this is Alpha Leader," she broadcast to her fighters. "These aliens fight like our training computers, very logical, very predictable. Let us show them some chaos." Her fighters scattered in all directions, then regrouped from unexpected angles. The Korthak point defense systems, designed to track orderly formations, could not keep up with the random attack patterns. War Chief Brutanus watched his fleet's formation collapse and felt something he had never experienced before: confusion. His ships were more powerful than the human vessels. His fleet was larger, his weapons had longer range, but somehow the humans were winning. "How are they coordinating their attacks?" he demanded from his tactical officer. "Their ships are too far apart for normal communications." "Unknown, War Chief. They appear to be using quantum-encrypted channels that change frequency every few seconds." "That is impossible. No species has that level of communication technology." "But the humans did. Every marine helmet, every ship, every fighter was connected through Earth's most advanced military communication system. While the Korthak used predictable radio channels, the humans shared tactical information instantaneously across their entire fleet. The battle reached its turning point when Captain Lee Min-jae's destroyer finally reached the Korthak flagship. The Death's shadow was 10 times larger than the UES Busan, but size meant nothing when a smaller ship hit it at full speed. The collision tore through the flagship's armor like paper. The UES Busan was destroyed instantly, taking Captain Min-jae and his crew with it. But their sacrifice crippled the enemy command ship and threw the entire Korthak fleet into confusion. "War Chief!" screamed the tactical officer as explosions rocked the Death's shadow. "They rammed us! They actually rammed us!" Brutanus could not believe what he was hearing. Ramming attacks were considered primitive and wasteful. No civilized species used such tactics because they guaranteed the death of the attacking crew. "What kind of animals are these?" he whispered. His question was answered when human marines began boarding his damaged ship. Colonel Bae Sun-ho led the first wave, his soldiers moving through the twisted corridors like they had trained for this exact scenario their entire lives. The Korthak had never faced boarding actions before. Their ships were designed to fight at long range, not to repel invaders. As human soldiers poured through the breached hull, the alien crew panicked and fled. "Secure the bridge," Sun-ho ordered his troops, "and find their computer systems. We need to learn everything we can about these creatures." Across the battle zone, similar scenes played out on dozens of Korthak ships. Human marines, trained for combat in hostile environments, adapted to alien ship layouts with frightening efficiency. They used the ship's own systems against their crews, turning artificial gravity into a weapon and filling corridors with toxic gases from damaged life support systems. The few Korthak ships that survived the assault retreated to the edge of the system. War Chief Brutanus, rescued from his destroyed flagship by a subordinate vessel, stared at the tactical display in shock. Half his fleet was gone. The other half was damaged or captured. The unknown aliens had achieved complete victory in less than 4 hours. "Who are they?" he asked his surviving officers. "What species fights like this?" Nobody had an answer. In 1,000 years of conquest, the Korthak Empire had never encountered anything like the humans. Species either surrendered when faced with superior force or fought logical defensive battles that could be predicted and countered. These newcomers did neither. They fought like cornered animals, using tactics that sacrificed their own lives to achieve victory. They seemed to value the lives of strangers more than their own safety. As the surviving Korthak ships fled the system, Admiral Kim Ji-won surveyed the aftermath of humanity's first space battle. 7 human ships were destroyed, and nearly 3,000 soldiers and crew members were dead. But they had saved over 2 million Vallani civilians and captured enough enemy ships to learn about Korthak technology. "Admiral," reported Commander Yoon Sora, "we are receiving signals from the Vallani survivors. They want to know who we are." Jiwan looked at the dozens of rescued alien ships on her screen. Somewhere in those vessels were the people they had traveled across the galaxy to save. People who had no idea what species had just saved their lives. "Tell them we are humans," she replied, "and we came because they asked for help." What she did not know was that their victory would be reported across the galaxy within days. For the first time in recorded history, someone had defeated the Korthak Empire in open battle. The peaceful civilizations of the galaxy were about to learn that there were other ways to fight evil besides diplomacy and appeasement. The Deathworlders had announced their presence to the universe. The news traveled across the galaxy faster than anyone thought possible. On the peaceful world of Ashanti Prime, Ambassador Vel Sandi sat in a medical facility, one of only a few thousand Vallani who had survived the genocide. Her blue-scaled hands shook as she recorded her testimony for the Galactic Council. "They came out of nowhere," she said into the recording device. "Ships unlike anything in our databases. The Korthak fleet was destroying our evacuation vessels when these humans arrived and saved us." The recording would be played in emergency session halls across 64 worlds. For the first time in galactic history, the Korthak Empire had been defeated in battle. Not negotiated with, not appeased, but utterly destroyed by an unknown species that fought like nothing anyone had ever seen. On the council world of Nexus Station, representative after representative stood to address the emergency assembly. The chamber was a massive sphere where delegates from every known species floated in zero gravity, speaking through universal translators. "The tactical reports make no sense," declared Representative Zephys of the crystalline hegemony. "These humans used ramming attacks. Ramming! No species has employed such primitive tactics for thousands of years." "Not primitive," corrected military analyst Thorvin from the Ashanti Federation. "Effective. Half the Korthak fleet was destroyed or captured. The survivors fled the system in complete disarray. High Counselor Arun, an ancient being who had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations, called for order. The question before us is not how they won, but what their victory means for galactic stability." Representative Kira from the Peaceful Merchants Alliance raised a tentacle. "Are we certain these humans are not simply another conquest species? Perhaps they destroyed the Korthak to claim Vallani territory for themselves." "They took nothing," replied Ambassador Vel Sandi through her translation device. "After the battle, they established medical stations to treat our wounded. They shared their food supplies with our refugees. They asked for nothing in return except to know if we needed more help." The council chamber fell silent. This was unprecedented behavior. Every species in galactic history had fought for resources, territory, or self-defense. Nobody fought just to help strangers. Meanwhile, in the Vallani system, the human fleet had established a temporary base around the largest refugee ship. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Kim So-yeon worked alongside Vallani healers, learning about alien biology while treating injured civilians. "Their cellular structure is fascinating," she explained to her medical team through their helmet communicators. "Carbon-based like us, but with redundant organ systems. They are much more resistant to trauma than humans." Her counterpart, healer Vilandra, watched human medical techniques with amazement. Human medicine was designed for treating battlefield injuries, quick, efficient, and focused on keeping patients alive under the worst conditions. "Your healing methods are so aggressive," Vilandra observed as Dr. Soyon performed surgery on a badly injured Vallani child. "You cut and repair, instead of using regenerative therapy." "We learned to fix things quickly," Soyon replied. "Our world taught us that sometimes you do not have time for gentle methods." Engineer Commander Oh Dae-hyun faced similar culture shock as he helped repair damaged Vallani ships. Human repair techniques focused on making things work with whatever materials were available. Vallani technology was elegant and precise, but broke easily when damaged. "You use metal strips to hold broken components together?" asked Chief Engineer Nalteth, watching Dae-hyun's team work. "It is called improvisation," Dae-hyun explained. "When something breaks in combat, you fix it with whatever you have. Pretty does not matter if it keeps you alive." The cultural exchange revealed fundamental differences between human and galactic thinking. The peaceful species of the galaxy had developed technology through cooperation and careful planning. Humans had developed everything through competition and adaptation to hostile conditions. Admiral Kim Ji-won spent her time reviewing captured Korthak data with Commander Yoon Sora. What they learned was disturbing. This was not their first genocide, Sora reported. The databases show 47 species that have been completely exterminated over the past century. 47, Ji-won repeated quietly. And nobody stopped them? It appears that most species either surrendered immediately or fought defensive battles that the Korthak eventually won. Some tried to negotiate or appeal to galactic authorities. What about this Galactic Council we keep hearing about? From what I can understand, they are a diplomatic body. They seem to focus on trade agreements and territorial disputes. There is no mention of military intervention or collective defense. Ji-won stared at the tactical displays showing Korthak expansion over the past century. Entire sectors of space had been emptied of intelligent life. So the galaxy just let this happen? It appears so, Admiral. The peaceful species seem to believe that violence only leads to more violence. They prefer negotiation and compromise, even when faced with genocide? Especially then. The conversation was interrupted by a priority signal from Earth. Admiral Ji-won took the communication in her private quarters, where the image of Defense Minister Park Hye-min appeared on her screen. Admiral, we have been monitoring Galactic communications, Hye-min began. The entire galaxy is talking about your victory. We are receiving messages from dozens of alien governments. What kind of messages? Some want to establish diplomatic relations. Others want military assistance. A few are demanding that we withdraw from galactic space immediately. Ji-won was not surprised. Humans had just upset the galactic balance of power by proving that the unstoppable Korthak Empire could indeed be stopped. What are my orders, Minister? Continue your mission. Protect the Vallani survivors and gather intelligence about galactic civilization. Earth is preparing diplomatic teams, but until they arrive, you speak for humanity. After the communication ended, Ji-won walked to her observation deck where she could see the vast refugee fleet. Millions of Vallani civilians in hundreds of ships, all that remained of an ancient civilization. They were alive only because humans had decided to help strangers they had never met. Colonel Bae Sun-ho joined her at the window. His Marines had been working around the clock to provide security for the refugee camps and analyze captured Korthak equipment. Penny for your thoughts, Admiral? I was thinking about something Ambassador Vel Sandi told me, Ji-won replied. She said that when her people sent that distress signal, they were hoping the Ashanti Federation would help them. The Ashanti are apparently known for being kind and peaceful, but they did not help. No. According to galactic records, the Ashanti debated the issue for weeks. They decided that military intervention would be too aggressive and might escalate the conflict. Sun-ho shook his head in disgust. So they let an entire species die rather than risk a fight. That seems to be how the galaxy works. Everyone is so afraid of violence that they would rather watch genocide than stop it. Then they need us, Sun-ho said simply. Ji-won looked at him with curiosity. What do you mean? The galaxy has been peaceful for so long that they forgot how to fight evil. They can negotiate and compromise and debate, but when faced with something like the Korthak Empire, they are helpless. And we are not? Admiral, we are a species that evolved by fighting everything that tried to kill us. We stopped our own genocides. We defeated our own dictators. We learned that sometimes the only way to protect the innocent is to destroy those who hurt them. As if to prove his point, alerts began sounding throughout the ship. Commander Yoon, Sora's voice came over the communications system. Admiral to the bridge. We have Korthak reinforcements entering the system. Ji-won and Sun-ho rushed to the bridge, where the tactical display showed 50 new enemy ships dropping out of quantum speed. These were larger vessels than the first group, heavily armed and moving in perfect formation. It appears they want their system back, observed Commander Sora. The Korthak fleet transmitted a message on standard galactic frequencies. The universal translator converted their harsh language into human speech. Unknown species, this is Commander Vex Kala of the Korthak Empire. You have interfered with a lawful conquest operation. Withdraw immediately or face destruction. Admiral Jiwan looked around her bridge at the officers who had already proven they would fight impossible odds to protect innocent people. Outside the windows, she could see the Vallani refugee ships, millions of civilians who depended on human protection. "Open a channel," she ordered. "Channel open, Admiral." "This is Admiral Kim Ji-won of the Earth Defense Force. There is nothing lawful about genocide. If you want this system, you will have to go through us." The Korthak response was predictable. Energy weapons began charging across their fleet as they moved into attack formation, but something had changed since the first battle. Word of the human victory had spread to other species in nearby systems. As the Korthak fleet prepared to attack, new ships began appearing. Ashanti medical vessels, crystalline cargo ships, and others. They were not warships. The peaceful species of the galaxy had no military fleets. But they had something else. The courage that humans had inspired in them. "Admiral," reported the communications officer, "we are receiving signals from the civilian ships. They are offering to help evacuate Vallani refugees if we can hold." 3 days later, the largest Korthak fleet in their empire's history dropped out of quantum speed at the edge of the Vallani system. 300 warships, led by Supreme Commander Vexithara, the architect of 17 species extinctions, filled space with their ominous black hulls. Admiral Kim Ji-won stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching the enemy fleet form up on her tactical display. Her own force had grown slightly. 2 more human destroyers had arrived from Earth, along with a dozen civilian ships from other species offering to help evacuate refugees. "Admiral," reported Communications Officer Lee Hana, "the Korthak are broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it through." The harsh voice of Supreme Commander Vexithara filled the bridge, translated into human language by their computers. "Unknown species that calls itself human. I am Supreme Commander Vexithara. You have destroyed Korthak vessels and interfered with our rightful conquest. I offer you one chance to surrender. Submit to execution, and we will kill you quickly. Resist, and we will hunt down every world you come from and exterminate your entire species." The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed the threat. The Korthak were not just threatening the human fleet. They were threatening Earth itself and the 4 billion people who lived there. Admiral Ji-won looked around at her officers. Commander Yoon Sora at Tactical, Colonel Bae Sun-ho representing the Marines. Dr. Kim Soyeon from Medical, Lieutenant Commander Oh Dae-hyun at Engineering. These people had already proven they would sacrifice everything to protect innocent strangers. "Open a channel," Ji-won ordered. "Channel open, Admiral." "Supreme. Commander Vexithara, this is Admiral Kim Ji-won of the Earth Defense Force. I have reviewed your empire's history. 47 species extinct. Billions of innocent people murdered. Your offer is declined." She paused, knowing that her next words would be heard across the galaxy. The peaceful species were monitoring all communications, waiting to see if the humans would back down when faced with overwhelming odds. "Furthermore," she continued, "I want you to understand something about humans. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day. We survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, and predators that were bigger and stronger than us. We learned to fight impossible odds and win." The bridge crew straightened with pride as their admiral continued. "You threaten our homeworld. You threaten our families. But most importantly, you commit genocide against innocent people. We are humans, Supreme Commander. We do not surrender." The communication ended. Across space, the Korthak fleet began moving toward them in perfect formation, a wall of black death that had conquered half the galaxy. "All ships," Admiral Ji-won announced to her fleet, "this is what we trained for. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when bullies pick on the wrong species." The battle began differently this time. The Korthak had learned from their previous defeat and kept their distance, using their superior numbers to surround the human fleet. Energy beams lanced through space, forcing the human ships to scatter. But Commander Yoon Sora had been studying Korthak tactics for 3 days. "Admiral, their ships move in predictable patterns. They are following what appears to be a standard battle doctrine." Meaning they fight like our training computers did 20 years ago. Very logical, very organized, very predictable. Squadron leader Park Hyesung led her fighters in a seemingly random pattern between the enemy ships. To Korthak observers, it looked like chaos, but every human pilot was connected through quantum communications, sharing targeting data and coordinating attacks that appeared completely unplanned. "Wolfpack, this is Alpha Leader," she broadcast to her squadron. "These aliens still think war is a chess game. Time to show them it is really poker." Her fighters split into groups that attacked from impossible angles, regrouped in empty space, and struck again from directions the Korthak point defense systems could not predict. Human tactics had been forged by thousands of years of warfare against other humans, the most unpredictable species in the galaxy. The turning point came when Colonel Bei Sunho implemented a strategy that no other species had ever attempted. Instead of trying to destroy Korthak ships, he decided to capture them. "All Marine units, prepare for mass boarding operations," he announced to his troops, spread across 30 ships. "We are going to turn their own fleet against them." Human. Marines had trained for zero-gravity combat in hostile environments. They had practiced fighting in damaged ships, toxic atmospheres, and alien gravity fields. Most importantly, they had learned to think on their feet when everything went wrong. The first boarding action targeted a Korthak heavy cruiser. Marine Captain Kim Daeho led 200 soldiers through space in armored suits, using the debris from destroyed ships as cover. The Korthak, who had never faced boarding attacks before, had no idea how to respond. "Secure the engine room," Daeho ordered as his troops poured through hull breaches created by human weapons. "And find their command center. We need to turn this ship against its own fleet." The Korthak crew panicked as humans moved through their ship like they had built it themselves. Human soldiers used the ship's own systems against its defenders, turning off artificial gravity in some sections while flooding others with toxic gases from damaged life support. Within an hour, the captured Korthak ship was firing on its own. Fleet under human control. Then another ship was captured, and another. The orderly Korthak formation began to collapse as they found themselves fighting enemies both outside and inside their own vessels. Supreme Commander Veltara watched his fleet dissolve into chaos from the bridge of his flagship. "How are they coordinating these attacks?" he demanded from his tactical officer. "We cannot intercept their communications, Supreme Commander. They appear to use quantum-encrypted channels that change frequency faster than our systems can track." "And the boarding parties?" "Our ships are not designed to repel invaders. The humans fight like they have trained in our vessels their entire lives." Veltara had commanded fleets for 50 years and conquered dozens of star systems. He had never encountered anything like human tactics. Species either fought at long range with logical formations or surrendered when faced with superior force. These humans did neither. "What kind of species sends soldiers to capture enemy ships during battle?" he asked himself. His answer came when human Marines reached his own flagship. The UES Seoul, damaged but still fighting, had managed to get close, enough to launch assault shuttles. Colonel Bei Sunho led the attack personally, his troops cutting through the flagship's armor with human cutting tools designed for hostile salvage operations. "Secure the command center," Sunho ordered as his Marines spread through the massive ship, "and find their databases. We need to learn everything about their empire." The Korthak bridge crew had never seen anything like the humans who burst through their security doors. These aliens moved with coordinated precision, but also with individual initiative that made them impossible to predict. They used weapons designed for close combat in zero gravity, and they seemed to have no fear of death. "Surrender," Colonel Sunho announced through his suit's external speakers, "and you will be treated according to galactic law." Supreme Commander Veltara looked at the alien soldier who had just captured his flagship. The human was smaller than a Korthak warrior, with no natural weapons or armor, but something in its stance suggested absolute confidence in victory. "You cannot defeat the entire Korthak Empire," Veltara said. "Even if you win here, our grand fleet will hunt down your homeworld." "Maybe," Sunho replied. "But first, they will have to go through us, and every time they fight humans, more species will see that you can be beaten. Eventually, the galaxy will learn to fight back." As if to prove his point, alerts began sounding across the battle zone. New ships were arriving, not human vessels, but alien craft from a dozen different species. They were not warships, but civilian vessels that had been hastily armed with whatever weapons their crews could find. "Admiral," reported communications. "Officer Lee Hanna from the UES Indomitable We are receiving messages from ships across the galaxy. Species are volunteering to fight alongside us. Admiral Jiwan looked at her tactical display in amazement. For the first time in galactic history, peaceful species were choosing to fight rather than negotiate or surrender. They saw what we did, she realized. They saw that the Korthak could be beaten. The Ashanti Federation had sent medical ships equipped with defensive weapons. The crystalline hegemony contributed cargo vessels converted into missile platforms. Even the tiny trader Alliance arrived with ships loaded with improvised weapons. None of them were military vessels. None of their crews were trained soldiers. But they had something the galaxy had forgotten: the courage to stand up to bullies. The remaining Korthak ships, facing a growing fleet of enemies and seeing their command structure collapse, began to retreat. Supreme Commander Veltara, now a prisoner aboard his own flagship, watched his empire's expansion come to an end. "This is not over," he told Colonel Sunho. "The Grand Fleet will come. The entire empire will mobilize against you." "Good," Sunho replied. "It is about time someone made you work for your conquests." As the surviving Korthak ships fled the system, Admiral Jiwan surveyed the aftermath of humanity's second space battle. They had lost more. 6 months after the Battle of Vani system, the galaxy was a very different place. Dr. Shin Yujin, Earth's first galactic ambassador, stood before the Galactic Council on Nexus Station, looking at representatives from 64 species who were still trying to understand what humans had done to their peaceful universe. "The Korthak Empire has fractured into 17 competing warlord territories," she reported to the assembled delegates. 3 other genocidal regimes have been identified and are currently under investigation by joint human-alien task forces. Most importantly, not a single species has faced extinction since the Vallani incident. High Counselor Arun, the ancient being who had led the council for centuries, floated in his null-gravity chamber and spoke through his translator. "Ambassador Shin, your species has upset the galactic balance that has maintained peace for thousands of years." "With respect, Counselor," Dr. Shin replied, "there was no peace. There was only the fear of species too weak to defend themselves and too frightened to help others." The chamber erupted in discussions as representatives debated her words. Some species were grateful for human intervention. Others worried that humanity's aggressive nature would lead to more conflicts. But everyone agreed that the galaxy had changed forever. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Kim Ji-won walked through the expanded headquarters of what was now called the Galactic Defense Force. The building had grown from a simple command center to a massive complex where humans and aliens worked together to monitor threats across known space. "Admiral," reported Captain Park Taman, who now served as Director of Alien Relations, "we have requests for military assistance from 12 different species. Apparently, seeing the Korthak defeated has inspired several independence movements. And our response? We are evaluating each situation carefully. Some appear to be legitimate liberation movements. Others look like territorial disputes that should be handled diplomatically." Ji-won nodded as she reviewed the reports. Humanity had become the galaxy's unofficial police force, but they were trying to be careful about which conflicts they entered. Not every problem could be solved with military force, even if military force was humanity's greatest strength. She walked to the observation deck where she could see the mixed fleet of human and alien vessels preparing for patrol duties. The sight still amazed her. Species that had never cooperated before now worked together because humans had shown them it was possible. Commander Yoon Sora joined her at the window. She now led the Joint Tactical Division, teaching alien species how to defend themselves using human military principles. "How are the training programs going?" Ji-won asked. "Better than expected," Sora replied. "The Ashanti Federation has established their first military academy. The crystalline hegemony is building defensive platforms around their worlds. Even the peaceful Trader Alliance has organized convoy escorts. And our former enemies? Interesting development there. Several Korthak colonies have declared independence from the Empire and requested protection. It seems that many of their citizens were forced to serve in the military and never supported the genocidal policies." Ji-won was not entirely surprised. Humans had learned long ago that most evil was committed by small groups of leaders who forced others to follow their orders. When those leaders were removed, ordinary people usually chose peace. On the other side of the galaxy, Colonel Bei Sunho led a joint patrol through what had once been Korthak territory. His fleet included human marines, Ashanti medical ships, and even some reformed Korthak vessels crewed by defectors from the old empire. "Colonel," reported Marine Captain Kim Daeho from the boarding party inspection team, "the mining colony on Zarion 7 is clean. The local government has eliminated the slave labor system and established worker protections. Any resistance?" "The mine supervisors tried to restart the old system after we left last month. The workers organized and stopped them. They said they learned from human examples that people do not have to accept abuse from those in power." Sunho smiled inside his helmet. This was how real change happened, not through conquest, but through people learning they had the power to resist oppression. The patrol was interrupted by a priority signal from Earth. Admiral Jiwan's image appeared on the communication screen in Sunho's command ship. "Colonel, we have a situation developing in the Outer Rim territories. A species called the Drakari has begun attacking civilian shipping. Intelligence suggests they are testing our response." "Are they another conquest empire?" "Unknown. But they have advanced technology and appear to be probing for weaknesses in our defense network." Sunho checked his tactical displays. His patrol fleet was 3 days from the Outer Rim, and the attacks were happening in remote areas where civilian ships had little protection. "We are on our way," he replied. As his ships turned toward the new threat, Sunho reflected on how much had changed since that first desperate alien distress call. Humanity had gone from a single-planet species to the galaxy's primary defense force in less than a year, but they were not doing it alone anymore. Each patrol included alien crews who brought their own skills and perspectives. The Ashanti were excellent at medical support and civilian evacuation. The crystalline hegemony provided advanced sensor technology. The reformed Korthak offered detailed knowledge of military tactics. Most importantly, the galaxy had learned that cooperation was more powerful than any single species acting alone. Dr. Kim Soyan had experienced this firsthand during her time establishing the Joint Medical Initiative. Her headquarters on Luna now included doctors and healers from 17 different species, all working together to develop treatments that could help any form of life. The breakthrough came when we stopped trying to treat alien biology like human biology, she explained to her staff during their weekly meeting. "Each species has unique advantages. Vallani healing factors can regenerate damaged tissue. Ashanti empathic abilities help with psychological trauma. Crystalline biofilters can neutralize toxins." Her assistant, Dr. Park Minky, looked up from his research notes. "The Korthak prisoners have been particularly helpful. Their biology is designed for surviving combat injuries, which has improved our battlefield medicine significantly. Even our former enemies can contribute to peace," Soyan observed. "It is almost like the galaxy was waiting for someone to show them how to work together." The conversation was interrupted by an emergency alert. New casualties were arriving from the Outer Rim, victims of the Drakari attacks that Colonel Sunho was moving to investigate. "Prep Surgery Bay 3 for unknown alien biology," Soyan ordered her team, "and contact the xenobiology specialists. We may be treating our first Drakari victims." As medical teams rushed to prepare for the incoming wounded, Soyan reflected on how much human medicine had advanced through contact with alien species. They were now equipped to treat biological forms that had never existed on Earth, using techniques developed through cooperation with species they had never imagined. 3 days later, Colonel Sunho's fleet arrived at the Outer Rim to find a situation unlike anything they had encountered before. The Drakari were not raiders or conquerors. They were refugees. "Colonel," reported the intelligence officer aboard his flagship, "we have made contact with the Drakari leadership. Their homeworld was destroyed by a rogue asteroid 6 months ago. These attacks on shipping lanes were desperate attempts to secure supplies for their surviving population." Sunho stared at the tactical display showing dozens of makeshift Drakari ships. They were clearly not military vessels, but civilian craft hastily converted for raiding missions. "How many survivors?" "Approximately 2 million, scattered across multiple refugee fleets. They have been living in space since their world was destroyed, taking supplies where they could find them. And nobody helped them? Sir, it appears they sent distress calls to several galactic governments. All responses were offers to consider their situation and establish diplomatic committees to study the problem. Sunho felt a familiar anger rising in his chest. Once again, the galaxy's peaceful species had chosen bureaucracy over action when people were dying. "Open a channel to the Drakari fleet," he ordered. A reptilian face appeared on his screen, scarred and desperate, but with intelligent eyes that reminded Sunho of human refugees he had seen during Earth-zone conflicts. "I am Colonel Bay Sunho of the Human Defense Force," he announced. "We understand you have lost your homeworld. We are here to help." The Drakari leader stared at him for a long moment before speaking. "You are human? The species that defeated the Korthak Empire?" "We are. And we have experience with helping displaced populations. If you are willing to stop attacking civilian ships, we can provide immediate assistance and work on long-term solutions." What followed was the largest humanitarian operation in galactic history. Human ships coordinated with alien vessels from a dozen species to provide food, medical care, and temporary housing for 2 million Drakari refugees. The Ashanti contributed their hospital ships. The crystalline hegemony offered advanced life support systems. Even the reformed Korthak colonies volunteered to provide temporary settlements. Within weeks, the Drakari had gone from desperate raiders to valuable members of the galactic community. Their advanced engineering skills helped improve human ship designs. Their knowledge of